Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Mil-Spouse Transition live stream. Now, according to their website, TAP, the Transition Assistance Program, the Department of Defense's main program for transitioning service members, it's supposed to bolster opportunities, services, and training for transitioning service members in their preparation to meet post-military goals. Now, whether you find that statement to be true or not, this program is mandatory for service members who have at least 180 continuous days or more of active duty, including National Guard and Reservists. Now, your family is getting ready to transition out of the active duty military life, and you might find yourself asking this question as a military spouse: is TAP for me? Call this your TAP 101 primer. Today's expert guest, Tyrone Hewitt, is going to dish all about what TAP is, the curriculum it covers, what a service member should be getting out of it, and what your opportunity as a military spouse is to be involved in the TAP experience with your service member. Welcome to Mil-Spouse Transition Livestream. We're sponsored by SpouseLink, a community to support, inform, and inspire military spouses. I'm Anna Larson. I am a military spouse transition expert and your host for today. I would love for you to drop questions, share comments, share your experiences with TAP, all the things. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope that you will enjoy today's show. Now, to get started, I always like to introduce my guest. I want to share his bio slides so that we can take a look and meet this expert guest, Tyrone Hewitt. Now, if you are at all active on LinkedIn and in the retired world of military world, I should say, then you have probably seen this name before or heard the phrase, better call Tyrone. Tyrone is a transition and family employment readiness program counselor with the Navy, where he assists clients with career development, creating job search strategies, writing resumes, preparing for interviews, searching for DoD skill bridge opportunities, understanding educational benefits, and all the other areas that involve preparing for transition or retirement. Tyrone is the go-to. I'm just going to say this. He is the go-to when it comes to transition information. Now, during his personal time, Tyrone enjoys hanging out with his family, reading histories, biographies, and autobiographies, and working in the yard. He's an unprofessional landscaper. Oh, and he loves the occasional carnival cruise. So with that, I'm going to drop this and bring up Tyrone to join us. Hi, Tyrone. Welcome to this Mil-Spouse Transition live stream. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yes. Now I'm going to put you in my star performer role right here, just like that. See, you get like awesome. Front and center. Yeah, exactly. So Tyrone, let's jump right into this conversation, because I think this is a question that a lot of military spouses have. Actually, you know what? Before we jump into this conversation, I'm going to share my experience with TAP.
Yeah.
We retired during the COVID years, what I'm going to call COVID years. And due to that, TAP was not available for me at all. It was a space available only, and there's no space available because everybody has to sit 6 feet apart. In fact, they were struggling getting enough classes done for service members. And at some point, they, I believe, moved to online courses completely for a while. And they did throw links at me, but I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what relevant part was. And honestly, the online videos that they did send me are not the same ones that you're seeing on the website today. And we're going to share that with you. So my experience, TAP, was, I'm going to just say, it was a thumbs down, very poor experience. I felt like my service member had gone through the process of just checking the boxes and didn't really take the knowledge and opportunity that maybe was there. Not that he didn't take it seriously, but he really was just trying to get through that huge checklist of transition requirements. Yeah. And TAP was one of those things on that checklist. Yeah. So is that something that you see often as a transition specialist?
Yeah, absolutely. That's pretty good. I think, one of the things that I often see with individuals is kind of the mentality of, hey, I just kind of want to get this done so I can go on leave or write my skill bridge paperwork or whatever process it is that they need to kind of venture into, because there are requirements. right? And I think going into the process with that mentality, you're just possibly sitting there, you're not asking questions, you're not taking notes, you're not being engaged, and you're like, hey, I'm just going to complete this thing I got to do so I can go home at the end of the day, submit my paperwork, and be done with it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, let's backtrack just a few minutes. Not well, a few minutes. Let's backtrack a little tiny bit. Let's start out with making sure that everybody who's listening to this live stream understands what exactly TAP is. So, what is TAP, the Transition Assistance Program? What topics does it cover?
Yeah, absolutely. So TAP is a process that's mandated for service members to participate in that helps them transition into the civilian world. Doesn't matter if they've done 4 years or 30 years, right? So the idea is to touch some of those areas that are going to help people, what I would say, successfully transition out. So identifying what careers you want to go into, your timeline for transition, the financial portion, which is huge. And what I would say in my personal experience, I think the most underprepared area for transition, because your finances, there's so many things that change your finances, healthcare costs, insurance, health insurance. There's so many life insurance. There's so many things, VA, and then there's another day with employment. So really how it's broken down, there's a day where you go over precept, which covers actually a plethora of topics, healthcare, federal employment, things of that nature, MO3 crosswalk, which helps identify you kind of go from what I would say going from here to there. So let's say I'm an electrician in the Navy. Maybe I want to go into electrician in the civilian world or a counselor in the civilian world. How to identify your gaps, whether it's hard skills, soft skills, education, training, things you may need to build that gap, build that bridge into the civilian sector. Obviously, the timeline, the finances. There is a one-day VA course, which I think is very important. VA, for those of you who are unaware, there's actually 3 portions of the VA. There's VBA, so Veteran Benefits Administration, Veterans Healthcare Administration, and then the National Cemetery. So that's actually 3 areas of the VA. They cover that, and then the Department of Labor has a day where they come in and speak about job search strategies, resume writing, interviewing prep. So those are the 3 mandated dates. But what I find a lot of people don't participate in, and I'm not sure why, there are 2-day courses. There's a 2-day course. I think the most popular one is probably entrepreneurship. There's another 2-day course for individuals who are thinking about possibly going to college. It's managing education. There's another 2-day course that goes over career exploration, which is probably my favorite. And then the other course is, I'm drawing a blank, entrepreneurship. And then there's another 2-day employment course, which is a little bit more robust than their 1-day Department of Labor employment course.
Okay, so I mean, that is a lot of information.
Yeah.
And does it have to happen sequentially? Like you sign up for it and you get like a week or 2 weeks to kind of get this all done? Or are you looking at like, hey, over the course of the year before you retire, you need to accomplish these classes?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. So TAP is broken down into your core courses and then your track. So the 3-day core classes absolutely happen, usually Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, the VA, DOL, and then precept and all those. All those tracks, though, you can take those at different portions throughout the year. You may say, the first month, I'm going to take entrepreneurship. Next month, I'm going to take employment. The third month, I'm going to take vocational. And this 4th month, I'm going to take how to utilize my education benefits and navigate that way. So if a person is planning out, and I get it, not everybody has the time, depending on deployments, or maybe there's sometimes short-term separations because a person is being medically separated and it wasn't planned for, or maybe they didn't promote. But if you're planning your transition 12, 15, 18 months out, you can absolutely take those courses, 1, more than once, and then 2, manage it. That way you're not, what I would say, receiving a water hose of information within a week.
Yeah. I know that's one of the biggest complaints, right? Is that water hose of information where it just comes not only are you getting the tap water hose of information, but everything else that's going on during transition, changing
Yeah.
healthcare, your family getting
Yeah.
ready to move somewhere, potentially selling a home,
Yeah.
like trying to close out all of your on post requirements, like for whatever base you're stationed at, right? I mean, like there is so much happening that I'm sure it is like just overwhelming, which is why so frequently just checking the box to get it
Yeah.
done, I think is what happens in that. Okay, so I love that explanation because I think for military spouses, just knowing what TAP entails and the opportunities that are involved in the program itself is really good information. Can you tell me, like, what is the actual benefit to the service member for taking these things? Because there's so many different organizations. You can go online and research. There's professional development groups, whatnot. So
Yeah.
how is TAP better, different, or an addition, I guess, for
Yeah.
the service member?
I would say a couple things. One, I like TAP. It's a basic building block of the transition process. And I say that because they give you a lot of good basic fundamentals, basic information to kind of let you build upon that. And then from there, what you can do is you can kind of decide which tracks or really honestly, which other organization you want to participate in. Because like you said, there are some pretty good organizations out there, right? So I think the benefit of the TAP portion is for a person, especially for a spouse to participate in, is really understanding kind of what to expect, right? And I think you named them all. I often hear people say, well, transitioning out of the military is much like getting another job. Well, to be honest, getting a job is only one portion of getting out, right?
Yeah.
You named a lot of it. You have to check in, and I think maybe the Army's the only one who does it, where they check in all their gear, right? I always see these posts about that. It seems like a nightmare, right?
It is. Ask me how many days of laundry I did for a gear that was like 25 years old.
Yeah,
For
I bet.
real. It was ridiculous.
I hear it's a nightmare, but you're trying to figure out your healthcare, right? So what I often joke about, when you're an active duty service member, you don't even manage your own healthcare. Somebody else is managing it for you. You're told when you're supposed to have your annual exams and all these other things. You're going to get a referral, so you have to learn that. Your dental, your vision. Where are you moving? Why are you moving to the state? What kind of job am I going to get? Oh, I had SGLI. What kind of life insurance do I get? I mean, it's just, there's so many things that are involved where we are. Let's be honest, for the most part, when you're in the military, you're kind of told what to do, what to do, when to do it, where to do it, how to do it. Now you have to figure out all this out on your own. The TAP class is a good idea of identifying all these areas that you need to have your eye on the ball with, what pertains to you and how you're going to execute getting those things done.
Oh, I love that explanation. I love that.
What I like about having the spouse there is two brains are always better than one, right? Two people are taking notes, a spouse, and I teach a lot of different courses to include a retirement benefits seminar. And in every single case, the spouse asks the best questions. I never managed my healthcare, or I didn't even manage my own healthcare. I definitely didn't manage my wife's healthcare and our kids. So she wants to know, how's Stryker going to work now? Can we have the same pediatrician? Can they have the same dentist? Right. So she's asking those questions: costs, localities, all these things. How is life insurance going to work? What is SPP? Should I get it? Should I not get it? What's the benefit of it? But as a service member, what I find is, I think sometimes we think we know it all, or we think our spouse knows it all, but we don't realize that there are a lot of gaps that we're unaware of. There are a lot of blind spots, and the spouse kind of provides that course correction. Because I remember when I went through my course, my wife asked me a couple questions, and I'm like, I don't even know if they talked about that, but she would have known because she would have asked. Yes. So 2 brains, 2 ears are definitely better, or 2 brains and 4 ears are better than 1 brain and two ears going through that process.
Okay, so I love that you are an advocate for military spouses participating in these TAP courses. Now, the next question really comes from a place of, I guess, experiences that I've heard, right? Mm-hmm. So let's talk about that space allowance for military spouses, because I was not allowed to attend. Now, part of that was COVID related, right? But I've heard from other military spouses where they also have not been welcome, or sorry, we don't have room for you. Or I heard from a military spouse that attended, but the instructor ignored her the entire
Wow.
day, wouldn't answer questions. And so it
Wow.
almost feels like your TAP experience is based on where you're located and how good that TAP program might be there. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I would say that there are some areas that I know that they do extremely well with their TAP programs. I mean, it is really impressive. Some of the additional information that they share, some of the instructors are either veterans themselves or even spouses. So what they're doing is they're taking these real life situations and they're improving everybody's experience based on maybe their experience.
Hmm.
Right. So I would always encourage, a spouse or the service member to contact the location and see if spouses are able to attend. We normally encourage it, right? I do understand based on the base how many seats they may have and how many times they have to do a year, which, service member may go through the first time and the spouse and service may go through the second time. But I would definitely encourage a spouse to attend it and see what they can do to ensure that there's a seat available for that spouse.
Got it. So really what we're saying then, hey, military spouses, find out if there is space available for you. And if you can, go to it. Now, could you go without your service member? I mean, can you just be a spouse showing up at a TAP class?
You know what? I don't have the answer to that one. When I was talking, I was like, I wonder if a spouse could go by themselves. I do know there are situations when I look at the policies. I've had caretakers come through. I know when we have caretakers, that is an absolute priority. Sometimes spouses and parents are caretakers, so those are priorities. We will absolutely make a seat for them. But if it's not in the caretaker position, I'm not sure that I want to say it's allowed, but I don't know if that center is going to say, yeah, absolutely come through. But what I will say for individuals who are in bases, in addition to getting a hold of your TAP office, get a hold of those community centers and your family centers, because what a lot of centers are doing, they're creating extra courses. For example, the Navy, we just created a course and we got done running a pilot on it called Spouse in Transition. It's a course just for spouses to understand topics that they typically are more interested in: the life insurance, the finances, the buying a home, dental, healthcare, and things like that. So I would get a hold of those centers, because if you can't get into TAP class, at least you can get those either spouse in transition or spouse in transition boot camps or retirement benefit seminar courses or briefs, and get that information that way.
Hopefully the Navy puts that online and makes it available. Like if the Air Force or the Army, or, if that's not available currently within those other branches, hopefully that's something that maybe it's separate though. And that what's true for the Navy isn't true for the Army in that sense,
You know what? Send me a message, because through our CNIC learning management system, we have instructors who do a lot of online instructing, and I am curious to see if they've put that online yet. And you don't have to be in the Navy; you can be in any branch and get an account and log in and get. I know people aren't big fans of virtual courses. I get it, but they're virtual courses that are taught by somebody, right? But I'll see if that's virtual yet, and if so, I can send you the link and we can both share that.
That
For
would be
other
fantastic.
people in other branches. Yeah.
Yeah, I would absolutely add that to the MilSpouse Transition website also, because I feel like that is like one of those core resources people are looking for, that information. So I want to move away so we know that spouses should be able to attend. And I have this comment here from Amy Morodos, who says the first issue is making sure TAP even exists, and that then that they can attend it. So yes, absolutely. Make sure the TAP exists where you're located at, because I know that there are people not stationed to a military base, right?
Yeah.
Now there are allowances and opportunities made for those transitioning experiences. And that's kind of what we're going to jump into next, which is like finding that benefit of TAP online. Okay. So Tyrone, I'm going to pull up that website that we were looking at earlier. We're so on it. Hold on. Let me find this really quick. So, all right. Can you talk to us a little bit about, oh, look, I'm in the middle of it, but talk to us a little bit about this TAP online, tapevents.mil, and what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the more common questions I get from spouses, whether it's a phone call or an email or maybe Facebook, is I'm unable to attend TAP. What can I do? And a spouse may not be able to attend TAP for for a number of reasons. Maybe they're working, there's a schedule conflict, childcare, a number of other things. So if a spouse or even a service member were to go to TAPS online, there are courses on here that the spouse can take themselves at a safe, self-paced. There's one, it's the core classes that the service member can take themselves, but there are additional courses such as understanding VA home loans, understanding VA disability, understanding education benefits for the spouse and the dependents. I think this gives an opportunity for a spouse to take those courses at their own pace when they have the time, whether it's after work or on their weekend or if the baby's asleep. And if you were to go to the top right-hand corner, there's military life cycle courses, core classes, tab classes, and that spouse could navigate, or the service member can navigate and determine what they think may be important. Like financial, if there's one course I would advise every spouse, in addition to the VA course, to attend, it would be the financial planning transition one, right? And
I
depending on how the courses are laid out, that's about an hour and a half or 2 hour block out of the day in an actual in-class seat. So to kind of answer a question you brought up earlier, if a spouse, if the center does not have a seat for the spouse the entire duration, I would follow up. Can I get the 2 hour financial class or a portion of the VA class? Because I think those may be and I could be wrong, but I think those are probably the two most important courses a spouse would want to attend.
Yeah, and really the idea behind this, right, is that we're learning the same information the service member is getting. So
Yeah.
we can help verify, we can help push the initiatives that need to happen. We can help with getting that VA information gathered and done in a timely manner, because really, like, we're very frequently that it's the military spouse that's tracking the timeline
Yeah.
of when everything needs to happen, right? I mean, that's not the case in every single household, but for the most part, we're the ones tracking the timeline and meeting those, pushing those deadlines that are needed. And so this is all part of what I say all the time, right? For transitioning service members and military spouses specifically, is you have to be having those conversations. Because
Yeah.
if you're not talking about it, then it's not going to be on your radar. If it's not
Yeah.
on your radar, you're missing opportunities. If you're missing opportunities, you're leaving money on the table or a service on the table that you could have utilized,
Yeah.
that potentially goes away as soon as that transition happens. So I love this. I do want to just scroll through this. So if you see over here, this pull down menu has family members, transition tracks, and then military life cycle. And so some of the different courses repeat. This is the one
Yep.
for family members. And then if you go into the transition track, this is really where you're going through sort of like that service member focused employment information is what this looks like.
Yep.
And then we have the military life cycle. And I thought this is that disability compensation one that we had wanted to point out. Mental health for families. There's so much in here.
Yeah. And you know what? I get it. A lot of people, they're not fans of any kind of virtual class or self-paced course. But I think to answer something you said earlier, if a spouse were to look, let's say that disability, and if I remember correctly, I think it's 45 minutes. If a spouse were to sit that course and navigate it, they would know what questions to ask, because sometimes we don't know what we don't know. We don't know what to ask. But a spouse may say, have you started gathering your medical documentation? Have you identified your BDD timeline? Have you seen for that bum knee you've been complaining about for the last 18 years? Right. And like you said, that conversation is, let me tell you, those questions in those conversations, they're going to be the driving force for that service member. Take it from somebody who is retired. Sometimes we need a little prodding, right? A little, hey, did you even schedule the appointment yet, right? And I think sometimes when I look back to my retirement, and it probably is the same with the transition, is at least for myself, when I wasn't kind of making when I wasn't making action, I was avoiding making action because it was more of a realization that I was retiring. So I was actually avoiding things. I was
Yeah.
avoiding doing certain things because it would remind me that, hey, this is going to come to an end, right? But if you have that spouse or your loved one kind of saying, hey, did you follow up on your referral? Did you order your medical record? Did you go to Fleet Family Support Center to schedule a class for a smooth move or whatever the case may be?
Yeah. And I think one of the really important things, that you just brought up, Tyrone, is that there is a mental burden of transition that you're
Yeah.
also trying to navigate through,
Yeah.
as well as all of the tactical like things you have to do. Tactical tasks, I'm going to just call them, right?
Yeah.
There's the mental burden and then the tasking.
Yeah.
And sometimes the two don't mesh well together. And so
Yeah.
you ignore the
Yeah.
difficult parts of it because the mental burden is too much. And I
Yeah.
think that's normal for both service members and military spouses. So this is one of those things where if you're 4 years out, 5 years out, guess what you can do? You can watch one of these 45-minute videos just to bring some peace of mind of, all right,
Yeah.
I kind of have an idea of what's the next step. Now, it might change in 4 years because let's be honest, we're talking about the DOD here. At the
Yeah.
same time, we're talking about the DOD where everything takes like a decade or a millennium to change in some cases. So who knows? It might be the exact same program 5 years from now. I can tell you that these online courses are not the online courses that I was given when my spouse retired in 2021. So there have been improvements made. I'm very impressed with the online portal that TAP has now available for families. And I just want to throw out there right now to every military spouse, go to that. I'm going to pull up that resource again so you can take a look at it. Go take TAP online, go look through the courses, tapevents.mil/courses, and see which ones are pertinent for you. What piques your curiosity? What do you want more information on now?
Yeah.
And then you call Tyrone because Tyrone is like the guy.
Yeah. Yeah. They can definitely call. I mean, I usually try to do calls with the spouse and the service member.
Yeah.
Like, hey, let's kind of get everybody on board. We'll do a Zoom, we'll do a phone call. You can come to my office, whatever the case may be. And I'll answer, and I'll tell everybody this. There's no such thing as a stupid question when it comes to transition, right? I don't know what the numbers are this year and last year, but at one time we had 200,000 people getting out, right? That is 200,000 different scenarios. I've seen people move overseas. I've seen people stay local. I've seen families with exceptional family members which need more information in that world. I've seen people career switching. I've seen people go into business. I mean, you could have the same exact type of situation, but maybe a different question. And you would rather get the answer. And typically, if I speak to somebody, I try to provide them with the resource, right? One of the biggest questions I get are like on the move, right? What am I entitled to with my move? Where can I move? What's my timeline? I'm going to give you the answer. I'm going to say, here's the joint travel regulations in the 052/143, I think it is a section. That way a person can read it and say, okay, he knows what he's talking about. Now I've educated myself and I have something to kind of go off of.
Yeah. Yeah. And when I say call Tyrone, I'm really more talking about like connect with him on LinkedIn and follow all the great advice that he gets. But he is available for that consultation services as well. So Tyrone, let's tell people, well, actually, I want to kind of close out this live stream a little bit, but before we give your contact information, let's just answer the question, yes or no. Is TAP for military spouses? That was the question we started out with. And I think that what we've determined here in this live stream is that it is a resounding yes, is
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
answer.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things, and I taught TAP for a couple years, and whether it's a TAP class or retirement benefits seminar, one of the things I kind of introduced the course with is saying, for those of you who brought your spouses, you're the smartest ones. Because, like I said before, spouses typically ask the best questions. They take the best notes, and they're really kind of tracking what's going on But yeah, absolutely for spouses, 100%. I would encourage every spouse to sit TAP.
Awesome. Okay. Let me add this slide here. Tyrone, tell people where to find you, how you like to connect with them, and what are they going to get if they come find you on LinkedIn?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Tyrone Hewitt. I think I'm one of the only ones. I'm that handsome guy right now. That picture, that's me. That's the handsome guy, right? You can send a connection. You don't even have, you can either follow or send a connection. If you send a connection, you don't need to leave a note. I don't get offended if you don't. But if you have this particular ask, you can say, hey, I saw you on LinkedIn or whatever the case may be. Great to connect. If you have time, can you answer some questions about whatever? Because that lets me know what I'm prepared to kind of talk about. Maybe do some research or gather some resources so I can have an intelligent conversation.
Yeah, really, you post so much online on LinkedIn already, constant resource building. In fact, you posted one today about the FedVip dental benefits. It's dental and vision benefits. They're having a webinar. So watch for that. Go follow Tyrone and find out more about that. And I'll be reposting that resource that he put out there, because that's the kind of information transitioning service members and families really, really need during this time frame. So Tyrone, thank you so much for joining me on this live stream today, for giving military spouses more information about what TAP is, what it should do for their service member, but also what it can do for them. I really appreciate you helping us out with that. Now, before we say goodbye, I do want to pull this up. We are going to be doing here. Actually, I didn't want that to be a ticker. I'm going to make it a banner so you can all see it just a little bit better. But my next live stream is going to be what transitioning EFMP military families need to know. This is in honor of the April month of the military child. I want to turn some focus to military families with children and kind of what transition looks like when you have children that are involved in that process. So I'm excited to have Austin Carrick join me for this live stream on April 4th at 2 p.m. Eastern. Mark your calendars and you'll see that announcement coming soon on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, through all the mini spaces. So I love that you are excited about that, Tyrone.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I get, I don't know if it's the coffee or what, but I get easily excited, right? That is an important topic. So I get a lot of, and EFMP is a really good program, right? And they've done great things these last several years. Unfortunately, a lot of that stuff goes away once a person separates. So I get a lot of questions about that, like different types of care assistant, things of that nature. And when I get questions, one of the first things I do is I do a warm handover with our exceptionally well, I have some great counterparts who work in that program. I send them straight that way and say, hey, I spoke to a retiree or separatee. These are their questions. And they're always on board.
Yes. Yeah. And there, it is hard, right? Because so much of it is just, hey, you're going to have to find your own services, right? So I'm excited to talk to Austin and find out what that process should look like. And when you need to start it, just kind of that timeline. Again, empowering military spouses to be able to just know when to start doing what and learning what they don't know, right? That's what it's all about.
It's learning because we don't know what we don't know. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So, okay, Tyrone, I want to say thank you again to you. I want to thank our sponsor, SpouseLink. As a transitioning mil spouse, you probably have way more questions than you have answers. And that's why AFMA created SpouseLink. Support, inform, and inspire military spouses like you around the world with resources you need to lead your family back to civilian life. So check that out at spouselink.org. And also, if you are not aware, which hopefully you are, you know that I have started the MilSpouse Transition website where I am gathering all of these resources, milspouse-transition.com. I am putting all of these resources together so that transitioning military spouses and service members, I mean, you're welcome to come visit the site too, right? Whatever you're looking for. But it is everything from mental health and wellness all the way to these transition tasks, if you want to put them that way, and all of these great resources that Tyrone shared with us today, as well as so much more. So you can find all of that at milspouse-transition.com. Tyrone, thank you. I so appreciate you. You're going to get like 5 million connection requests today. I'm sorry. There's nothing I can do about that. You're just that awesome.
Thanks for having me. It's always a good time with you.
Yeah. All right, everyone. We will see you on April 4th for the EFMP Mill Spouse Transition live stream. And otherwise, we will see you later.